that Trumbull last meeting? Oh,
Oh, there it
Okay.
is.
All right, good evening, everybody. This is the Monday, February 27th meeting of the Select Board. My name is Erin Underhill, and I am the chair. With me, I have Craig Schultz, the vice chair, and Ellen Rosenfeld, our clerk. We also have Karen Bray DeMarzo, our assistant town administrator, HR manager, and Mike Kaczynski, our town administrator. We do have a few announcements to begin with. First, a save the date. Saturday, April 29th, from 9 a.m. to noon is Millis Beautification Day. It is Don Reynolds Millis Beautification Day, sponsored by the Millis Lions Club. It'll be rain or shine, and there is a link for registration and for signing a waiver to participate. So be on the lookout for that.
What was that date again? I'm sorry.
Saturday, April 29th.
Thank you.
The other announcement we have is our state rep, James Arena DeRosa, will be holding office hours here in Millis on Monday, March 6th, from 12 to 2 p.m. in room 206 of this building. So if you would like to meet with our state rep, one of our state reps, that would be, I'm sure, a great opportunity. Okay, so moving right along into our agenda, the first thing we have is to close the town meeting warrant.
I'll make a motion to close the town meeting warrant.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to close the annual town meeting warrant. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
And Madam Chair, if I may, just a couple notes. There is a list, just a first draft list of articles in the packet. Most of them are standard articles, a few of which are put on there just as placeholders for now, but just a couple articles of note. We did receive an article, a requested article from the Energy Committee related to a net zero goal, and one from the Board of Health related to an amendment to the plastic bag reduction bylaw. We've also received one petition article, which is also in your packet. And in addition, a little later this evening, when the board is discussing the budget, I'd like to discuss the possible article for the establishment of a special education stabilization account. So that's where we are right now. For your next meeting, we should have a first draft of an actual warrant for the board to review.
And that's when we can add the fund.
Yes.
Yep, okay. Okay,
Thank you.
any questions?
Nope.
Nope, good.
Okay. I'm 2 minutes early, it's not a hearing though, so I'm good.
No, you're good.
Okay. All right, the next thing we have is a request for a fee waiver for a senior project.
In fact, stretch a little bit.
So I just wanted to introduce, this is Catherine Ledoux. Catherine is a senior at Millis High School. I am fortunate enough to have known Catherine since she was about 5. And I was pleased that she asked me to be her mentor. So this is the project she's been working on, so I'll let Catherine tell you all about what she's planning
So
here.
Karen cut off part of my spiel here, but
Oh, I'm sorry.
So it's okay. So I'm planning
Shocking.
I'm planning a town. I'm planning a townwide yard sale in order to raise money for Rosie's Place Women's Shelter in Boston, which is an organization that's very close to me. So I plan to hold the event on Sunday, April 30th, which is the day right after Town Beautification Day, and my rain date would be the next weekend, Saturday, May 6th. And I'm here simply to ask the board to waive the town's $5 yard sale fee for all participants of the fundraiser for the day of the event.
Okay. So each person that participates in the yard sale is supposed to have a $5 permit?
Yes.
Okay.
And how will this actually raise money for Rosie's Place?
So
Catherine?
each participant will donate a suggested donation of $20 to have their address put on a map that will be distributed to all people in the town in any way that I can figure out how to. And so all of that money and any additional cash donations will go to Rosie's Place.
And what was the date again?
Sunday, April 30th?
Yes, and the rain date would be Saturday, May 6th.
Okay.
All right, well, that's very exciting, because I know I've heard a lot of rumblings, like, over the past few years, that people in Millis would like to do this, because I think Medway does something similar.
Yeah.
So that's a really great idea. Awesome.
All right, I'll make a motion to waive the fees for those that participate in the townwide yard sale.
Second?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to waive any fees for participants in the townwide yard sale scheduled for Sunday, April 30th, rain date Saturday, May 6th. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so
Excellent.
much. Good luck.
Good luck.
Thanks, Catherine.
All right, next we have the review and approval of ambulance billing rates with Chief Barrett.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Got my glasses. I'm here tonight to discuss the 2023 ambulance rate change. Annually, our billing agency, Comstar, does a study, reviews cost, reviews expenses, and comes up with an average fee that their customers will charge for an ambulance call. So in Millis, we have reviewed it a couple times over the last 5 years. We haven't made a change. This year, I'm here to request a change. We're about $400 low compared to the average top 50 bundled ambulances in Comstar's billing agency.
400, what do you mean? 400 below what?
400 below their average rate. Per call.
Per
So-
call?
Per call. So what we
What
do is.
percent is that?
We have to do it.
I could do it.
I mean, are we like
Come on, Craig, you're the money
50%?
guy.
It's
No.
like 20 to 30%
Yeah,
right
it's,
now.
yeah.
We're 20 to 30% low.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then in Norfolk County, 28 communities of Norfolk County had done a study. They found they were about $500 to $600 less, so even more, 30 to 35. So it's been a big push with the increased cost of just about everything. And as we've talked about in budget presentations and costs associated with operating the ambulance and supplies, I'm here tonight to recommend that we raise our fees to the recommended amounts by Comstar. Again, I like to just say that these fees are charged to the patient's insurance. Medicare, Mass Health, all that, that's a completely different separate rate that we can negotiate. Mass Health and Medicare, they set it, that's what it is. These are for people with insurance, and this is how we recoup some of the cost.
Okay. Any questions?
Oh, sure, so I can break them down. So we have 4 different fees. We do what's called bundled. Some places they'll charge you for oxygen, or they'll charge you for this. A lot of departments have just gone to this bundle rate. So we have what we call a BLS emergency base rate. The average rate is $16.19. Currently, we charge $12.93. That's $1,293. Our ALS 1, which means, usually with an ALS 1, it means an IV, maybe some medications, cardiac monitoring. So the average is $2,419. Currently, we charge $2,099. An ALS 2 rate, which again is a big one. It's cardiac arrest, stroke, calls that really incorporate a lot of medications and personnel. The average rate is $3,551. Currently, we charge $3,194. In addition to anything over, if we transport over 10 miles, which Millis is lucky, we have, well, the hospitals keep dropping, but we're down to about 4 hospitals that are 11 miles away. Anything over 10 miles, we're able to charge a mileage fee. We were charging $34. They've raised it to $38.
Just Chief, I know you have on the form February 1st for an effective date. Should we move that to
We'll have
March
to change
1st?
that, yep.
Would March 1st make sense?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when's the last time you raised rates?
So we review them every year.
You do?
And the last 2 years have been the years we've seen kind of big jumps. But 4 years ago was the last time we've raised a rate.
I'll take.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we adopt the rates as presented on this sheet effective March 1st.
Second?
It's It's been moved and seconded to adopt the rate change for the Town of Millis ambulance costs effective March 1st, 2023. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Mr. Galinsky, you'll sign this tomorrow?
Yes.
Okay, excellent.
Very good.
Awesome.
Thanks,
Thank you
Chief.
so much. Have a good night.
No, we have to wait. So when you get in the ambulance, get oxygen, it's counted.
I'm on Medicare.
Yes.
I'm not going to get that money from my.
Okay.
You certainly get it.
So
We have a few minutes anyway.
right now, we're just going to take a moment since we're a little bit ahead of the game. And we're going to move one of our appointments up. We're going to move up the appointment of Department Assistant 2 for the Executive Office. Not on the right page, I'm sorry. Hold on.
No, where are you?
Sure. Thank you. Awesome. Okay. So, Mr. Kaczynski, so Karen Bure DeMarzo is enthusiastically recommending the appointment of Victoria Schindler as Department Assistant 2 in the Executive Office to fill the current vacancy. Victoria has been working as Department Assistant 1 in our office since October and has proven herself to be a diligent and conscientious worker. She is a quick study who doesn't hesitate to take on new assignments. She has been a great addition to our department, and she will be very successful in the new role. Victoria has been the only applicant for this position, and I think we are all pleased to be appointing her this evening. Victoria, is there anything you wanted to say?
Thank you, and I really enjoy working in the office, and I'm learning a lot, and it's just, every day, there's something new, and it's a lot of fun, and I'm really grateful, so thank you.
Excellent. Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Madam Chair, I'll say she's been doing an outstanding job since she's been here in her current role. We're excited to have her work in this expanded role, and with that, I would enthusiastically request that the board appoint Victoria to the position of
Department Assistant.
Department Assistant 2.
Now, are we doing the appointment or the ratification of your
You're
appointment?
Ratification of my
right.
appointment.
His appointment.
That's what I thought. Then you messed me up with the comment there. I'd like to make a motion to ratify the town administrator's appointment of Victoria Schindler as Department Assistant 2 in the Executive Office.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to ratify the town administrator's appointment of Victoria Schindler for Department Assistant 2 in the Executive Office. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Welcome.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
I will note that we are very excited to have Victoria take on this new role. However, that leaves us with another vacancy.
We'll be advertising.
So now we will be looking for someone to fill Victoria's role, which is 18 hours in our office for a department assistant as well. But we are thrilled, and Victoria certainly will do very well in this role.
And do we have some kind of link to apply on our website for that?
So we will do that tomorrow. Now that she's been officially appointed, we will now advertise her position starting tomorrow morning. And it advertises internally to the union for a week first, and then we will advertise to the outside if there's no interest. So,
Excellent. Okay.
oh, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
See you in the morning.
So I am
Madam
2
Chair,
minutes
2 minutes
early.
early, Madam Chair. Item 043 should be fairly brief if you'd like to take that up. This is the review and approval of a proposal for a comprehensive response action.
Okay.
It's actually at 961 Main Street. This is in relation to the article that was approved at the fall town meeting, where the town approved funding for this follow-up work as required by the DEP. The scope of work and the proposal from Ransom is in your folder, and the total amount for the work is $43,850. So I'd be requesting that the board authorize me to execute an agreement for Ransom in the amount of $43,850 for the work outlined in their scope dated February 10th, 2023.
And I was going to say, just to note, because you mentioned 961 Main Street is actually the library, so this is actually started, it was things that were going on behind the library. but the actual property is 12 to 14 Exchange, just so that,
Oh, right,
Yes,
right,
right,
right.
right.
This is the,
so, yeah.
Yes, they're kind of
So,
connected. Thank
but
you.
they
Got
wrote
it.
961 on here, but it's 12 to 14 as you read through.
okay. That makes it better.
Just to clarify.
Yeah. Took me a minute.
Any questions?
Took me a lot longer than that. Nope.
Nope. I'll make a motion to authorize the town administrator to sign a contract with Ransom for $43,850.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to authorize the town administrator to sign the agreement with Ransom for $43,850. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next we have a hearing, a continuation of 1178 Main Street.
And Madam Chair, I believe that
We are going to continue that
Mr. American
again.
has requested that that be deferred and continued to your meeting of March 27th,
Mm-hmm.
2023 at 7:30 PM.
Okay.
Do we need to make a motion to do that? or-
Yes.
Yes.
I'll make a motion, we can defer the
Do you
continuance
have
of
to-
this.
Sorry, do you have to open the hearing and then continue it?
Why don't we open it first?
I'll make a motion to open the hearing.
Sorry.
Second?
Okay, moved and seconded to open the hearing. Do I poll?
Yes.
All right, I'll poll the board. Ellen?
Aye.
Craig?
Yes.
Aye. Okay.
What date does he want it moved to?
March
March
27th.
27th at 7:30 PM.
I'll make a motion to continue this hearing until March 27th at 7:30 PM.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to continue the hearing for 1178 Main Street to March 27th at 7:30 PM. I'll poll the board. Ellen?
Aye.
Craig?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. And then we need to close the hearing.
Make a motion, we close the hearing.
Second?
Moved and seconded to close the hearing. Ellen?
Aye.
Craig?
Aye.
And I'm an aye.
Thank you.
Okay.
3 minutes.
Okay.
Do some more appointments if you want.
It took longer to do that than to listen to if you'd shown up.
Sure. So for appointments tonight, we have a few appointments. However, one of them we're going to wait on, which is the Enterprise Funds Advisory Committee. We have a few applicants, but we also need to make sure that at least one of the folks that we appoint to this committee is on sewer. I believe all of our applicants so far are on septic. So we are going to leave this open for a little longer to get some more applicants in, and then we'll appoint that committee. So at this point, we could appoint the Cultural Council members.
I'll make a motion that we appoint, who we got here? Marie Turley to the Millis Cultural Council. I was going to do them one at a time.
That's fine, all right. Okay.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to appoint Marie Turley to the Millis Cultural Council. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll make,
Go ahead.
I'll make a motion, we appoint, what's that name, is that?
Nuala?
Nuala Barner to the Millis Cultural Council.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to appoint Nuala Barner to the Millis Cultural Council. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. We will then move down to the on-call library assistants.
So, Madam Chair?
Yes.
I am requesting that the board ratify the appointment of Kara Hodden to an on-call library assistant for the Millis Public Library. I believe your letter from the library director is in your packet. And the library director has recommended this appointment based on her extensive working history in the library environment with a broad background in teaching and researching.
Make a motion to appoint, to ratify the appointment of Kara Hodner for the library, what do we got there? Library,
On-call library
on-call
assistant.
library assistant.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to ratify the town administrator's appointment of Kara Haddon to the on-call library assistant
second one
position. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Great, thank you. Madam Chair, one more appointment, requesting that the board ratify my appointment of K.C. Conover to the position of temporary library assistant for the Millis Public Library. And she also has research experience as an archival assistant and worked with youth in a tutoring capacity. And I'm requesting that the board appoint her to this temporary position of library assistant, or ratify my appointment.
I'll make a motion to ratify the town administrator's appointment of Casey Conover to Youth and Family Services Librarian? No,
Temporary
Temporary.
library.
temporary librarian, yep.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to ratify the town administrator's appointment of Casey Conover to temporary library assistant. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Great, thank you.
Need a bullet point.
It's temporary because she's filling in for somebody
Yeah.
who's out on leave.
Oh, okay.
Got it.
All right, so
7:20.
it is 7:20. I just want to get back to where I was.
I know, we
Hold,
keep jumping
please.
around, I'm getting lost.
I know. Okay. All
Oh, the
right, so
conduit.
Just get all the
now we
hearings
have a
at the same
hearing
moment.
for the grant of location for conduit at Rolling Meadow Drive, so we need to open the hearing.
Make a motion, we open the hearing on the grant of location of conduit at Rolling Meadow Drive.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to open the hearing. I'll poll the board. Ms. Rosenfeld?
Aye.
Mr. Schultz?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Okay, the hearing is open.
This is Christine Cosby
Christine
from
Cosby,
Eversource.
Eversource.
Yeah.
Energy.
You do, I remember
back.
you.
She's back.
She's
Seen a
back.
lot of you
Yes, I
lately.
know.
Yeah.
We're requesting permission for grant location for approximately 45 feet of conduit within Rolling Meadow Drive. And the purpose of that would be to provide the new underground electric service to the residential development that's under construction.
Okay. Are there any questions from the board?
No. What project is that, Mike? Do you know?
Is that,
What's the
It's
project, do you know?
Bob Fox.
It's
Oh,
Bob
it's
Parks
Fox.
and
Fox.
Emerson
One
Place
of Bob
Development.
Fox's.
I know what it is.
okay. If there's no questions from the board, are there any questions or comments from the public? Okay, hearing none.
I'll make a motion that we grant the,
Oh,
Just
there's
close
a-
the public hearing.
Oh, we
I'll
have
make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to close the hearing. I'll poll the board. Ms. Rosenfeld?
Aye.
Mr. Schultz?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Okay, the hearing is now closed. And is there a suggested motion in here?
I think.
I'm just looking, I didn't see
Okay,
one.
I don't see one either.
But it's called a grant of location, is that what?
Yes, grant
Yeah.
location.
I'll make a motion that we issue a grant of location to install approximately 45 plus or minus feet of conduit. I'm sorry, to install conduit in Rolling Meadow Drive for Instar.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to grant location for conduit at Rolling Meadow Drive, and I'll just throw the work order in there, 5946010. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming out.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay,
Lansing Building.
all right.
A lot of pages on this thing.
So next, we have discuss future plans for the Lansing Millis Building.
Here he is.
Hi, Richard Nichols, I'm the chair of the Millis Permanent Building Committee. I actually brought handouts, so here,
All right.
and it's in big type.
Excellent, even better.
Sure, thank you.
You know your audience.
So anyhow, the reason for our appearance in front of the Select Board tonight is to discuss the long-term use of the Lansing Millis Building. The town authorized $250,000 for stabilization of the property, but the question was asked by one of the PBC members, are we throwing good money after bad? As a long-term resident of Millis, almost 50 years, I want to save the building because of the historical nature of it. However, I do have the question is this a good investment, as we don't have an ultimate plan for the building? If we do the work to the building, it will still be sitting vacant, and there have already been issues with vandalism and trespassing. Also, if we find a tenant for the building or sell the building outright, would the repairs we do add any value to the building? I look to the select board to give direction to whether we spend the money on this building right away or set a timeline for the reuse prior to the repairs happening. Due to the conditions of the building, the decision should be made the next 6 months due to the current ongoing degradation of the building. So basically, we got the money, we can save it, we can preserve it, but what are we preserving it for? And, this has been, I know, through previous boards where it's been talked about. There's been a lot of discussion about the property. Nothing's happened. So that was our question. And I have one more follow-up item after, I'm sure Bob wants to say something.
Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Weiss?
Thank you, Rich, Madam Chair. I guess we have there's really no debate about the historic value and the aesthetic value and the, to the town. It is a question of economics and finance, really, as we all know. We've done a number of, as Rich says, a lot of people have supported this, as Rich has over the years, and would love to see it. We've seen this in the plans made for the town, economic plans. The master plan of 2000 has that. The Urban Land Institute's plan that was done in 21 also mentions how important the building is to Exchange Street, but also to the town in general. So I think all I'm going to do here tonight is really suggest that we begin the process of finding a tenant or a defined purpose for the building. And by that, I would start with the Economic Development Committee, because I have been working with them for 3 years now. I know they're creative, I know they're entrepreneurial, and they understand projects like this. This is just a place to start. I think that the EDP can do a number of things, such as suggest perhaps that the town, through the town administrator's office, come up with a RFP perhaps for a real estate consultant who can find a tenant for the building, or perhaps search for a partner, a development partner, so that we could come up with a use for the building. In any case, it is, I think, a good place to start. We need to find a tenant before, I think, we do the renovations. We have the 245,000, I think, for the earmark for shoring up the building. We have another. We have a place mark with the Office of Economic Housing and Economic Development, the state's office, for a building underutilization fund grant. We put in for that for about $1 million, but we can't, and we also have a $170,000 earmark for a downtown, to do something with organizing the downtown merchants. So there is funding there, but in order to release the funding, the sources are going to ask for a purpose for the building, something that's realizable. Certainly having a tenant there would help to release these funds, or at least having a decent plan. And I believe that I can work with the EDC, and we can at least start there to come up with a plan, and if not, come up with a tenant.
Okay, Bob, can I jump in after that? So that's good information. The $250,000 basically fixed the roof and will patch the holes in it. To do the full renovation, we had a study done with an architect, and that number came in around $2.5 million-ish to get it to the point where it would be legal to be used as a building, with people in it.
But wasn't that also period specific as well?
It was period specific. However, some of the stuff we could cut out of it. Like I said, we're not necessarily sold on that plan, but it needs structural work, it needs egress, it needs all brand new utilities inside, new furnace, new plumbing. So just not to sugarcoat it, this building is going to need a substantial amount of work. And obviously to get a tenant in, you could say, hey, we've got this old crappy building, we're going to fix it up, it's going to be great. But it might be it might be a thought process of, hey, how do we work this, to make it happen? So,
Okay.
Yeah, well, my thought on it is, I'm not interested in spending $2.5 million of anybody's money to fix it up. It has no purpose for the town. It's a great building, it looks architecturally fantastic. I'm not diminishing any of that, but there is no use that the town can put it to without putting an elevator in. When I was on the permanent building committee, the elevator, because it was discussed for other use, would be external, it would change the entire look of the building. There was no way the design people at that time could figure out how to put something in that met code for commercial use in the building.
Right.
So I don't think that's changed any. So I think it's a great building. I think it's a building worth saving. But I don't think it's a building that I don't want to spend $2.5 million of town money to fix it up. I don't want to burn all of my state earmarks on fixing it up. If I can get $1 million in downtown development funds for other things that are going to have an impact on the town, much more so than preserving a building, yeah, that's my take on it. But I think it is a beautiful building. I don't want to call in earmarks when I've got another $6 million PFAS plant sitting down the road, which it's, if, I don't know how many times we can call earmark favors in from people, and that's the kind of stuff that I'm more interested in. Spending the money to stabilize it might make sense, so it doesn't get worse while we discuss it. I don't have a problem with that. Fixing the roof if there is that money available. But right now, I mean, if you're asking for an idea that it can be used for, I don't think that it fits into any realistic plan
But
that the town could.
there could be a tenant, right? There could be a tenant that operates out of just the bottom floor, right?
Yeah, that's what
Maybe.
I'm missing. So, a question.
Yeah.
I've got a million questions, but I'm going to leave it at 3. This 2 million, I was in that building. I was amazed at what great shape it was in.
Yeah.
Seriously, I was amazed.
Yeah.
I went upstairs, I thought there'd be water stains all over. I thought there'd be the brick and whatever all over the ground. I don't.
yeah, this is just an initial study from an architectural firm, so we could go down and fine tune that to, but there's egress issues that we have to deal with.
But if you get a tenant, I don't see why, I don't understand how it can, I see it as being tenantable. I agree with you. You don't need the top floor. They could use it for storage. So in order for, I know there was a school, there was something in there a few years ago.
School. Sorry.
So in order to get a tenant in there, we don't need to bring it up to code, correct?
That would be something we'd have to check on, yeah.
I mean, it's
Well,
grandfathered.
I would love to see a tenant in there. I'm clear, but I just don't want to see us investing $2.5 million to bring it up to
Yeah,
code
but
to
right
get
now-
somebody on the
yeah,
first floor.
Right now,
It
that's
makes-
not on
Yeah.
the table. The
Yeah.
question
Okay.
initially was, we're authorized to spend $250.
Yep.
Are we good with that? And we're gonna fix the roof, patch the holes in, that'll be enough to hold it still until we decide what we have to do. But the question was, further down the road, do we really have a plan for it? So it's kind of to get the discussion open on that.
Well, a couple of weeks ago, Erin, was it you that said, somebody said that Mike Gazinski said that we should tear it down?
No, not Gazinski.
No.
I mean, I'm sorry, Mike, Giampietro.
Yeah.
Who did,
Yeah,
you did. So I spoke with Mike Giampietro, sorry, Mike.
Wrong, Mike.
Didn't say tear it down, he said he just thought it was.
Right,
well,
he thinks,
sort of
well,
said tear it down.
all right, he did say that. But that's fine. The reason he said that was because he thinks that the foundation needs to be replaced. Now, that's huge.
Yeah.
So we need to get a structural engineer to take a look at it. Now, there's one structural engineer in the whole east of the Mississippi. I'm not kidding. And I happen to know him. So I would like to make a call, and that's the first step. Because if the foundation, if this is in fact, if they deem it unsafe,
Yeah.
that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah, right.
I think that's the first step.
We should send them the report that was done by the
Okay.
architect first, and then they could take a look at that to see where.
Okay, if you can send, somebody
Yeah.
can send me that, we can push that.
Yeah.
But other than that, if it's sound and it needs a new roof and new pointing, if everybody knows,
Yeah.
just, And, you know, it's all heat pumps and, you know, splits now. It's not $1 billion like it used to be, where you ripped out a
There's-
boiler.
right. I think the
No.
thing with it is, there's a good deal of work. It sounds, yeah, we could just kind of do a few things to it, but it's more than that.
All right,
So,
well,
Yeah, you know, and like
Yeah.
I said, I
don't
just
know.
want to make sure
Yeah.
that we're aware of.
Yeah,
what
and
we're-
I'd like to make sure it's really, getting a tenant in there is viable. I mean, how much rent can a
Well,
tenant pay that's going to make up for the
I
cost of the
think
building?
that, go ahead.
Yeah, my take on it is, I don't think it has a future as a town building, as something that the
Yeah.
town uses. The future with a tenant makes sense. If we can find a tenant who will agree to maintain the outside, I don't care what rent we get back, as long as I'm paying for the renovations by state grants that can't be used for anything else. I mean, I don't want to take money out of a other downtown redevelopment project to put into this, that could, encourage strong economic growth. And if the tenant agrees to maintain the architectural significance of the outside, I'm fine with whatever's in there, because I'm going to be mostly, unless it's the right tenant, driving by and looking at the building like I do now.
That's right.
So if the building looks nice and it's maintained by the new tenant, and we bring enough in on whatever rent we charge for it to be maintainable,
And
Then I'm
keep,
there,
and
yeah.
keep the building. At this
Yeah.
point, listen, you're never going to get a tenant that's going to pay $15,000 a month to pay for. If you can get a tenant in there, and I don't see why you wouldn't be able to get a tenant in there. There's nothing wrong with that downstairs space. There's enough parking.
yeah.
You'll get somebody out of a basement to go in there. But to keep that building, of all the buildings in this town, just me personally, because I have no personal attachment to most things, but of all the buildings in this town, that is a keepable building in my book. That's all.
Yeah, I agree, I just don't think it's keepable as a town-owned
No.
building, or town facility, town use
no.
building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
No.
that architectural point should be on the website, so you guys could look at that just as a, and like I said, to your point, they went at it, looking at it more of a historical renovation. So yes, there was added cost there, but they did also explain some of the
Okay.
things that
Right.
needed to be
I think
upgraded.
that did talk about some concerns of the foundation, but
Yeah.
not in detail.
Yeah.
And now that we have these, at least that first earmark, there's potential to go back to the CPC to see if we could get some additional funding, because the argument the first time we went was that there was no other funding source.
Right.
So once there's another funding source, there's the ability to request for some funds.
Yeah.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I just wanted to note, because I remember back being on the permanent building committee, when they built the library over here, and people always say it looks like it's a steakhouse, chimney on the outside, the reason why that is there is because it's an architectural element that comes from that particular building.
Really?
The turret in that building, that piece on the front of the library that we have now, and the stack that's over at the old GAF that was capped that tower, it was to kind of relate everything in town. And so it would be kind of sad to lose what actually was the element that caused all of those
And we
things.
tear that down, and in the
And
future
then we
we'll
tear
go,
it down and be
well,
like,
it was
It
because,
used to
Yeah.
be because of, right, so, I mean, just for
Yeah.
historical significance or.
Yeah, and the Economic Development Committee has talked about this a great deal, but there's been very little action. I think it is time for action either to be had on it,
Yeah.
or, we got to move it forward. So if that means finding an architect, not an architect, a realtor, engaging that, whatever we need to do. But it's been talked about since I've been on the committee for 2 years, and before that, I think it was talked about
Yeah,
too.
and it's always been on the back burner.
Yeah.
It
We've always
is.
been waiting for something else to happen in the center of the town, and things are starting to happen now, so.
it is. People are coming out of their basements.
Yeah,
It's a fine spot for a lawyer, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
just yeah.
Do we have any comments from the audience? Come on up to the microphone.
Joyce Boyardi, 206 Orchard Street. Has there ever been discussion of maintaining the appearance of that building, as it was mentioned, about tearing it down, redoing it, selling it to somebody who could possibly turn it into multi-use, where it would be condos on the top and businesses on the bottom, and possibly the people who, whoever develops it could sell each business as a portion that they would own of that building, therefore they would be responsible for maintaining. Because you can't ask a tenant to maintain the exterior of a building, it's not their responsibility. You can ask them to leave it in the condition that they rented it from you, but you can't ask them to maintain a building.
No, he didn't mean that.
But no, well, when we had the Montessori school in there, they were responsible for roofing it at least once, so they was maintenance that was done by them.
Right.
So
that was in their
I mean, I'm sure they
contract.
went with the lowest, cheapest patching job they could find.
Okay.
But
Well-
we didn't know what else was going on with it at that point.
It is a beautiful building, and
Yeah.
there's been discussion about tearing it down, refurbishing, whether it would be more cost-effective to tear down and rebuild, take a picture of it, try to duplicate what it looks like, so that the historic impression is still there, but perhaps be able to utilize it for condos, as I say, upstairs condos, people actually purchase them, and downstairs would be businesses, and they either rent or they purchase.
Joyce, have you been in that building? It's pretty small.
It's very
Yeah,
small.
that's what-
No, it's really small.
Really,
I have
really, really
not
small.
been.
Okay,
I have
it's
not
really,
been,
it's
but
really small.
Saying that there's a downstairs and upstairs, even
many
if it
square
was
feet?
a condo upstairs or
Maybe
2
2,200?
condos, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
rather than,
Smaller than
I don't
It's
even
just-
think it's 2,200 square feet.
No, it's not. I think it's 12.
1,200
Yeah.
total?
I think so.
2 stories, more than that.
Oh, so 12 each, maybe? Yeah, 22,
Yes.
2,400, that's
so
about
2
right.
condos.
Yeah.
I'm just
Okay.
saying that, look outside the box rather than just trying to throw money into it that we may not have. Just a thought.
Yeah, no, I think there's, if we start talking to real estate folks who have worked with things like this before, we may come up with some ideas that are outside the box.
Yeah, and just to be clear, when I worked for the trustees, we'd take old buildings that were historic and just turn them into a sculpture. The inside was never touched. There was the minimum, for a long time. I mean, then after 30 years of it being beautiful on the outside with lovely gardens, eventually they got to the inside to some of them. But that's the historic portion. No, the inside is not a historic benefit to the town, it's the
No,
exterior.
That's right.
Right.
So, so there are options, and whatever it takes to stabilize the outside and keep it from going further into disrepair, as long as it's a grant that's not going to be taking away from something else that we could use it for, because that's a pretty, pretty single use.
Yeah.
I don't want to diminish other grants that we get to fund something we're going to look at,
Yes, hi.
Hi, Mike Banks, Forest Road. But first of all, thanks for taking on this topic. I know it's probably a controversial one, whatever, it needs to be covered. My question is, would the town be amenable to selling the property, but with the condition that the exterior be preserved as is?
It's a lovely idea.
If you could do it. I mean,
It's
putting
very
out-
it's very difficult to do. You're not going to get anything for it if you're going to put a restriction on it like that.
Okay. I was just wondering if, like, maybe putting out, like, an expression of interest to developers to see what, even if the town didn't make money off of it, if the goal here is to preserve the exterior, maybe it's an option. But anyway, maybe, I was just thinking maybe you do that before we put more money into it. But again, thanks for taking on the topic.
Yeah, I don't
Hoping
think
something
anybody's
happens.
thinking about making money off of it.
Definitely no money.
I think it's basically how can we make it look nice without bleeding money.
Yeah, yeah.
Slowpoke, sorry.
It's all right. We're not going anywhere.
If you go to the town website and go to the Permanent Building Committee, on the left banner, the top entry is the study we commissioned by the architects. There are floor plans, there's a complete evaluation of the condition of the building done by a bunch of experts whose names and titles escape me now, but everything you're looking for, Ellen, is there.
Got it.
And for the record, that is Diane Germain, the Vice Chair
I'm
of the
sorry,
Permanent
I
Building
forgot.
Committee.
I forgot who I was.
I've got you covered.
Oh, thank you.
Is it Abacus?
Do you know, Diane, do you remember whether or not they did get a structural engineer to take a look at it?
I think so. They had somebody who was well experienced with historical restorations and renovations. I
Okay.
don't know beyond that.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
I think I mentioned the foundation, but I can't recall beyond that.
Okay.
Thank you, Scott Fusey, 411 Union Street. I said this before, I think you hope you don't have to tear it down, but you can't, it's kind of difficult to rebuild something of that nature, how that building was structured, how it was built. It really is a focal center, and I really hope that the effort, that whatever we do on Exchange Street, and that whole area as far as redeveloping, that building is a part of that plan. It's an icon. The way it's designed, the way it's laid out, you know, we can get a tenant in there, that'd be great. We had the school in there for years, they took care of it. But, you know, it really needs to be part of whatever's going to be planned down there, because if you take it, you're never going to be able to, I don't think, maybe you could, but I just don't feel it would have the same character. It'd be very difficult to deal with, so thank you.
I'd like to know how many, we should take a quick something to see how many of those buildings still exist in the Commonwealth. Train stations, right?
Yeah.
I mean, probably a handful. Well,
Unfortunately,
you
a lot
must
of the other
know.
ones are bigger.
A
Yeah.
local historian. The other ones are bigger.
Needham and Walpole both have them. and they're-
Framingham.
Framingham, and those are large enough to
Tommy's Taxi.
do something nice with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lisa Harden, 56 Walnut Street. I think it's extremely important for the town of Millis to save this building. It's, other than the current building that we're in right now, it's really the only historic building we have. It's associated with Lansing Millis. It's covered on the outside with stones that were sent that have engravings in them. I don't know, you know, people don't realize, they think it's just some brick building. The outside is unique. I think there may be one other railroad station in the state that's similar to it. You'd never replace it. Also, if you sell it, it's
Yeah.
going to be gone.
Yeah.
The town has to keep ownership of it, I think, and we should at least repair the roof for right now, so it doesn't deteriorate any further. And it wasn't that long ago, within the last year, a couple of departments in this building said they would go over there. The town could use it for more room. You know, if we took a couple of departments out of this building, we'd have more room, for example, for the senior center, just an idea. So I think, and my other question about finding a tenant, isn't it easier to find a tenant when it's like move-in? You could move in instead of, well, a year or two from now, we might have it ready for you.
No, yes.
So that just seems like
Yes,
you'd
it
have to
is.
fix it up if you're even trying to get a tenant.
Yes.
Those are my comments.
The good news is it's so small,
Yeah.
seriously, that you don't need to do any, you don't need to put up partitions or put in doors or make anything. It is move-in if it is cleaned up and made, obviously, habitable. It's all done. The rooms are the rooms.
Right.
Right, I just want to follow up on that. It just, you know, that sounds good. It's not, we cannot just take a town department and move them over there. It needs, it needs a decent amount of work before that happens, just so, it's a great
Yeah.
idea, love it. But this is the reason why we came here, is to bring up this discussion, is that, we'll put the roof on it, we'll patch the holes all day long, not a problem. But it just kind of makes sense to have something down the road that
Yep.
we're working towards, so this money is being spent efficiently.
Yep.
So that was the reason that we came here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other last thing is, which is slightly off topic, but on renovations, in the future renovation to here, or work that's going to be done on the VMB, one of the items that the consultant brought up was document management as one of the key items, which I gather you guys are going to be talking about. Basically, if they do any work in here, the boxes of stuff that are in the way is a key thing that if they were gone, they don't have to move or work around the stuff. And number two, the stuff that's in the building actually increases the heat load and cooling load, because you get a big lump that you got to either warm up or cool down. So that was one thing that I know you guys were, working towards, but that gives a little more emphasis to, what you're doing is a great thing, and we should definitely push on this, because if you can get rid of the junk, in the basement.
Digitizing the files.
Right, are you talking about digitizing
Yeah.
or moving them over to?
Just getting rid of them, because you don't need them, you know, that was the thing that they said was a key thing, was if we had more space without junk in it, it's gonna make it easier to do the renovation, so just
And
something
we
to think
desperately
about.
need to digitize, we've talked about that.
Right,
before.
and it's not something I wanna talk about, it's just something that came up that I just
Okay.
thought I'd mention.
We do try to
Thank you.
dispose of the documents we can legally dispose, but a lot are, we have to keep permanently or for
Yeah.
quite a period of time, and those we'd have to digitize in order to make that space.
Right, right, and that's, like I said, something that, you know, it looks like we're working towards, good move, let's keep on doing it, and appreciate your time, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, everyone. Nathan Maltinsky, 431 Exchange Street. Just a thought on old buildings. If you don't stabilize them, you're going to lose them. So I think spending the money on the roof, stabilizing the roof is a key component right now, and utilizing that money is key. $250,000 sounds like a lot of money, but prevailing wage, I don't know if prevailing wage has to be spent on it, but you do have the turret. There was water getting in at one corner. Paul Sims, our former custodian, was really a key guy of keeping that building stabilized, and took I fielded a lot of phone calls from him about problems there. And so there is still some water getting in. So if we can utilize this money, that'd be awesome. Bob, we had the State Economic Development out there to look at the building, didn't we? Didn't they come in part of the Complete Streets? Didn't they look at that building?
Not as part of the complete streets. They actually brought the Urban Land Institute out back in, that was what, early 2021.
And can you recall what they made comments on about that?
No, I'm sorry.
I recall a presentation that.
I could tell you, well, when we brought DHCD out, the impression was, here's an anchor for the street that really balances off the Niagara. Now I'm starting to recall. That balances off Niagara. So at either end of Exchange Street, you have two possible anchors. And then we had thought about how Exchange Street could become a commercial center for the town. It already has somewhat of a traditional New England development design with the smaller buildings, the single and two-story buildings, and the diagonal parking. So they looked at during our tour, the ULI tour, which included DHCD, they did look at the Lansing Millis Memorial and saying, you know, here's a possible anchor.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah,
Recalling-
that led to, when we applied to the One Stop, Community One Stop, and we said, you know, that looks at funding for a town through 5 different stages, and we're already in the planning stage, because that's what the 3A, that's where the 3A money came from. But they also looked at a number of other things, including, you know, the infrastructure that there. And one of the projects that they looked at, as I mentioned just before, was funding for the renovation of this building through the building utilization funding. That's a grant that can provide, and they asked, you know, how much, and one of the choices was $1 million plus. So they understand that this is big money, but again, they are looking for plans from the town that will help, that will complement any particular plan for a single project.
And on another note about the foundation, I don't know if you recall when we restored Niagara, that building got lifted up, and we put steel under there, put a new concrete foundation underneath that building, on the front part of it, 3 sides, and then put it back down. So it is a feasible task. We got it done for actually a great amount of money, a very, very reasonable amount of money, I should say. There are other alternatives to repairing a foundation. You can pour a slurry wall in front of a foundation. You can pin it and keep it. There are alternatives to foundation work rather than lifting the building and putting the foundation in. So that building is definitely an asset to the town. And we have talked about it on the EDC previously. It's a perfect candidate for CPC money. We can bond a project. We have some money that is in our general fund that we could utilize towards it, and then we could bond a project, just like we did $450,000 for Town Hall, probably 8, 9 years ago. So it is feasible. If anything, you do the outside and make it really presentable, then that attracts someone to come in and look, say, hey, look at this place. Let's do some landscaping, let's do the exterior, and let's make it look nice. Then you can work on the inside. You can do a two-phase thing, but it's, unfortunately, the Montessori school, I mean, having a tenant and say, oh, well, you're responsible for the maintenance, it doesn't work,
No,
you
it
know?
doesn't.
It's like renting an apartment. It's like, oh, well, you got to paint the outside and take care of all the snow and blah, blah, blah. Well, you're not going to get a good deal. So unfortunately, the town let the building go by not keeping up on things for 20-plus years. So now we're getting handed the baton and say, hey, all right, well, let's do something with it. So now's the time. And I'd welcome, and I think the CPC committee would welcome an application or discussion about it in the future, about let's get something going on it. And I'll look at the study that Diane talked about and this other study that we have and see what we can do. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
What's the other study that you have?
Same one.
Same one?
It's the same one? Same one, okay.
Okay, that's good.
I was confused. We said it 2 different ways. Yes.
Okay.
All right. Well, that's some good food for thought. I think we've got some things to think about with that, so thank you. Okay, so we will move along at this point to our next agenda item, which is discussing fiscal year '24 budget proposals.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've asked the Finance Director to come in this evening, so we can talk a little bit about where we are in the budget process. We originally were planning on having asking the DPW Director to come this evening to talk about his budget. We met with him earlier today, and we think there's still some tweaks that need to be done there, so he will be coming into your next meeting in 2 weeks.
Excellent.
And we want to talk a little bit, you know, as somewhat of a follow-up to the tri-board meeting that was held a while back, where we discussed some of the challenges for next fiscal year. I think one that was discussed at length was the spike in special ed costs at the schools, and how we can try to work together to assist them as much as possible, you know, in addressing that issue. So the Finance Director and I are looking at the revenues, we're looking at the current budget requests. There are still several variables outstanding, or should I say fixed expenses for FY24 that we don't have the final numbers for, that could be considerable. One is for the Tri-County Regional Vocational School. We do not have that assessment yet. We hope to have that by sometime next week. I think we've level funded that in our estimates currently, but we'll update you once we have the actual numbers. The other large item that we still don't have a number for is the health insurance premiums through the GIC. I think we've plugged in a number of a 12% increase in that item, both for an actual increase in premiums and possible additional numbers if the school needs to hire a certain number of paraprofessionals or other folks that would be benefit eligible. We have to prepare for that as well. Again, we expect to have those numbers. I think the GIC has a meeting on Thursday, but they indicated that they won't release the municipal numbers probably till sometime mid to late next week. One item that did come up in some discussion since the tri-board meeting is the idea of a special education stabilization fund. It's something that the Finance Director brought to my attention. That is something that the town can establish to put funds in that can be utilized at times when special ed costs come in higher than expected. to help stabilize the budget from year to year, wild fluctuations. That's something that I think we're going to be requesting that the board add to the warrant with some level of funding based on available funding at the time. I won't go on too much longer before I'll turn it over to you.
Oh, I just said on the special education stabilization fund, it would require, once the town meeting votes it and funds it, it would require the school committee to sign off and the select board to sign off on any expenses that come out of that fund. So there's a reporting requirement attached to that education stabilization fund.
And there's strict
Right.
guidelines on exactly what it can be used for as
Right.
far as certain types of special education costs.
Exactly.
So would it cover the out-of-district?
It would cover, it could cover out-of-district, it could cover the, on the law, here it says that it's for, to pay without further appropriation for unanticipated or unbudgeted costs of special education and recovery high school programs.
Out-of-district.
Out-of-district tuition or transportation.
Okay. All right.
So it's certainly would be a helpful tool to have funds put in there when available.
Right.
To, again, assist the school address those spikes. And obviously, the 14% increase in the out-of-district assessments is one of those big costs that's coming up for this coming year.
And not that we can fund it well in this particular year, or even anywhere near what the ask is, but at least it gets it established. And then when free cash is available, just like for the 111F, we want to be able to, bring it back to what it was. And so we have it there for funding within that current fiscal year. That's what my hope would be, is that we would have sufficient free cash in coming years to be able to fund those accounts that are necessary in order to maintain a stable budget.
Right, and those, again, it's just an added tool to be able to manage the budgets and try to avoid the disruption of the spikes in costs that are really, most of which are beyond the control of the town. So just a couple other items, and then we can certainly talk a little more detail about any other follow-up issues. I did forward to you just today the preliminary cherry sheet estimates based on the governor's budget proposal, which were just sent out, I think, late last week. Unfortunately, showing on the sheet I sent out to you, it does show a net reduction in our state aid of $23,710, or a reduction of 0.36%. I think Carol wants to add another unfortunate piece of news to that.
So there are two pieces to the cherry sheet. So one is the revenues. So the revenue piece was what Mr. Kaczynski gave you already. So that's just the projected. That went down $23,710. Our expenses, which are the other half of the cherry sheet, went up $45,500. So I brought you a copy so that you could see that.
So the net change is actually closer to a reduction of about 70,000.
Here, I thought I was being pessimistic when I said it was going to grow by 0.05%.
A little too optimistic there.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, that's been the worst we've ever been hammered, but now it actually went down.
So, I mean, this is just the first shot at it. Goes through, as you can see on this sheet here, it goes through several more cycles before the final budget.
The legislature has the opportunity to make that better through its process, but until we get something really clear from the legislature, the number you see here is the number we'll be using as far as our state revenues.
So on this sheet, this feels like a joke. The special education went down by 14,000, close to 14,000, over $14,000.
On the
cherry sheet?
On the expense portion. So that's the expense portion. So our expense for special ed that we have to pay into the state for our cherry sheet went down 14,000.
Oh, our portion.
So
Oh,
our
okay.
portion went down.
There's your win.
Oh, there you go.
It's 14,000.
That's the way I read it, too.
No, that's the expense side. That's good.
Yeah, that's good, okay.
Expenses go down good.
Right. On the other side of that, the school choice expense went up.
Yeah.
And also the charter schools.
Right.
Spending. So I wanted you to have an idea of where these changes are.
Okay.
Unfortunately, there's pressures on our budget from many angles here. So, again, you see why a number of years ago, we anticipated a 1% per year increase in state aid, and even then, we've been overly optimistic a few of those years, so.
On my workbook, when I thought I was being grossly optimistic, I put it at 0.5%. And I've been always saying 0.05%, so.
And just a few other charts I did send out to the board today that Carol had updated, was able to update earlier today. A chart showing the municipal above-level service requests for FY '24.
We printed some out if you need them.
And I think.
Would you like a printout?
I think we did give those to you.
You have those in your,
I think we give
they
them.
were on the table when you came in.
Oh, okay.
I did some
But I
hard
don't know if
copies
you-
for you.
Oh, did you make copies for
Yeah,
them?
I did.
Okay, great.
Here, I'll sign.
Yeah, they're not those.
Yeah, they're in here.
And also an updated chart showing the capital project requests for FY '24. So, again, the finance director and I will be working on the budget later this week. We'll be keeping an eye out for additional information that we need on some of those variables that are still, we're still waiting for. And I think we'll be in a position at your next meeting in 2 weeks to kind of go over a draft of a complete budget sheet with what we have as of that date, and we'll be able to fill in some of the big pieces at that point.
So this is updated, this has changed since the budget presentations?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So the changes, just so you know, on the above-level service, excuse me, the change, there were increases to the Council on Aging hours.
Yep.
That was the one significant increase there. And then on the town clerk, she put through, instead of the increase in stipend that she had requested, she only had asked for a $17,000 increase. So those are the changes since the budget hearing.
Okay.
And on the capital, the change since the budget hearing is just the HVAC for the Veterans Memorial Building.
Right.
Right, and ultimately, some of these questions will come down to, which capital items are critical that need to be funded versus how much funds we can put into the Special Education Stabilization Fund, because there won't be enough for everything. So those are the questions that will probably, you'll be heavily involved in over the next 6 weeks.
And just looking it over, there are a couple FY '25 items there too, I noticed that.
Yeah, the
at
FY
meeting.
'25s, yeah, those won't count towards.
Right.
They're there because the capital committee met with those folks to
Right.
talk about those items, but those are not priority items for this year at all.
And then the enterprise stuff at the bottom, so it's really looking like $5,600,000 of operating, in
Right.
that
Yeah.
range when all's said and done.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that typically comes out of free cash.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that would be the funding source for any funds that go into the Special Education
Right.
Stabilization Fund as well.
And free cash was minus the marijuana impact fund, somewhere around 800?
Yes,
850,
Okay.
yes. Well, one thing I know, people did ask me about the MUS funds, and the only real true MUS fund that we have would be unpaid bills. The other item that I would consider a MUS fund is to rebalance the 111F fund
Okay.
for the work, for the
Oh, yeah.
Agreed.
worker comp for the police and fire. And right now, we're projecting about $130,000 that we'll have to pay out this year from that fund.
So is that what we'd be proposing to put into it?
Right.
Okay.
And again, just for a little more explanation on that a lot of that involves the town's acceptance of Chapter 100B about 30 years ago, which requires the town to cover certain expenses on injured public safety officers. So that's a commitment the town has.
Right. And not only do we have the current employees that are out on worker comp, we also have individuals that have met the cap for the insurance that are now have to be funded by the town. And that hits the 111F fund.
And we have the maximum insurance that we can obtain, basically, through Maya.
That's correct. We own them for forever.
Okay.
But that's where we stand tonight. I don't know if you have anything else other than to say, well, we're going to be coming back in 2 weeks. I will just note, it's not actually going to be a direct budgetary item this spring, but I will note that I've met a couple times with my colleagues about the Tri-County project for the Tri-County Regional School, so that's something that, you know, we should at least discuss so everyone's aware of it moving forward. I think that the superintendent, the director, is coming in to meet with you in a few weeks to explain the project, and we can talk more about that going forward. But that could be a financial impact, not in FY '24, but in the following years.
The only other point that I wanted to make is just to let you remember that we have, on the budget hearings that we had, the information that you have on any of the unions, the firefighters, the fire chief, and SEIU, those amounts, and the DPW, those salary amounts are going to change based on what the contracts are.
Right, and after this evening, the only outstanding collective bargaining agreement we're still working on is the SEIU.
Okay. Ellen and Craig, any questions?
Nope.
Nope.
All right. Thank you, Carol.
Oh, you're welcome.
All right. Okay, next we have...
I have one quick question, Carol, I'm sorry, I just thought of that. The HCA funds, this shows the full amount, not just the first half or second half on the budget sheet you just gave us. The pink column, that would be, if it was, that's the full request.
That's the full request
Thank
that
you.
we have right now.
Yeah.
And on the information you have, that's not in that hasn't been added.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that was the full amount, not half of it. Yeah.
No, that's the
Good.
full amount that we have right now.
Perfect.
Okay, thank
Thanks,
you.
Carol.
You're welcome.
Okay, so next we have the discuss potential legislative earmarks for fiscal year '24.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In some of the recent discussions I've had with our legislative delegation, they've indicated that they would like to get a list of potential legislative earmarks that the town might be interested in, that they can try to assist us with certain items in the community. Just to start the conversation, I did send out, as part of your packet, a memo outlining a few of the items, some of which are actually currently in our capital list for discussion. I know there's been some discussion about, you know, the town, whether the town would need additional design and study funds to continue to look at, you know, possible future senior center. So there's an item there. There's, the senior center is looking for a transportation vehicle. That's currently for FY '25, but I put that in there as a discussion point. The aerial boom lift for use for the municipal school buildings, that's an item that, again, is on this year's capital list. Library building repairs, that's some repairs to the envelope of the library that are needed. The schools had requested an upgrade to their wireless systems, and that's a possible item, and it's been discussed earlier tonight about the possibility of digitizing some of the files here in this building. So these are all items that I think would fit within a request for earmarks, and certainly anything else the board wants to discuss, but usually we provide a list to our legislative delegation, relative priority, and then they see what they can do with that to assist us with some of those items. So I think they were hoping to get, you know, feedback by sometime in early March, at least a list they could start working with.
I'd definitely like to see the digitizing on here.
Agreed.
that alone will free up another whole space that could be used for the seniors
Yes.
right now. And, as was discussed in the prior conversation, heating and cooling considerations and
Yeah.
work done to the building will be easier if there isn't all those boxes. Are you looking for us to not only suggest but prioritize this list at this time, or?
Right, I guess we're just looking for some feedback, if there's feedback about which items that you would like to send to the legislative delegation, as well as their relative priority that you'd like them to consider them. Certainly, my understanding is the process is that our legislators, they meet with the chairs of their committees that deal with these things, and in those discussions, they consider which items are most likely to get approval. So even if we rank an item higher up, it still may not be the one that gets through based on the relative, rules and priorities they're dealing with up on Beacon Hill.
I mean, I'd say to move the aerial boom lift to the bottom.
I don't think that has a lot of legislative support.
And add in the digitization.
Yeah.
I think for the rest of it, I don't know if you guys have opinions on order, but to me, they're all kind of fairly level weighted, so.
I mean, my goal would be to try to get stuff off this year's capital list, but next year's capital list would be okay as well. I'm just looking at the senior van.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
not on this year's list, but
Our library repairs on this
yes,
year's list?
31,000's on this list.
Yeah, so maybe put that up.
And the wireless is on this year's list too for 68.
Oh, all right.
Any of those things that get funded would just free up cash now.
Yeah, but we won't know. Like, we might have to make a decision about these at town.
Unfortunately, we may not know until
Right.
after town meeting if we've.
But
you know,
then that money can go-
even if
It'll show up
town
in
meeting-
November,
Even
yeah.
if town meeting approves the item and we get an earmark, the town just doesn't have to spend that appropriation. It can just be used for something else.
It can roll
Okay.
back in pretty quickly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, just another thing on the digitizing of the files. Not only would it free up space, but it would help us to more efficiently respond to public records requests, which I think the government would like.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Because there's a lot of things that we have that are just, it's almost impossible to dig through files when you're looking for things, and I think that would be fantastic.
Okay. Yeah, definitely digitization.
Yeah, that's quite expensive too.
It is expensive, and it's not an easy process.
It's staff expensive, time commitment and cost of service.
Because I have visions for that room down there. So I want
I
the
know, you
boxes.
do.
I want the boxes out of it because I've got visions.
I have nightmares of digitization having done it, so, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It will actually require some work for in-house staff as well, because the
Oh, a
people
lot,
that,
yeah.
you hire an outside firm to do it, but they need guidance.
I know.
Yeah, you have to metadata code everything, and
Yeah.
that's what takes forever. If you screw that up, you never find it again.
I know.
Okay. All right, so we good with?
Madam Chair?
Yes,
Can I
sure.
address
You don't stumble across it once it's in the computer.
Lisa Harden, 56 Walnut Street, and also Town Clerk. In terms of digitizing, I don't know if this particular project would be relevant, but is it possible for the town to acquire, I think it's software, so that going forward, we can save documents in a digitized version that's searchable, for example. And just as an example, we could save the town reports that way, and it would make it much easier to find things. If going forward, we could just, type in a phrase or a couple words and find, everything in the last 5-year town reports that addressed a certain topic, that kind of thing. I talked to Jim Donovan briefly about it. I'm not really a software geek, so I don't know what the actual software is, but there's something you can get. And it wouldn't mean that we would be saving every single document that the town hall creates. That would be ridiculous. But
Yeah.
you know, the important ones that we really want to save, maybe we could run it through this other program that would make things searchable. I think it would just be really helpful.
Well, that's the question, right? So we're talking about digitizing boxes and boxes of existing. But day to day in town hall right now, are you saving everything and throwing away the paper?
No.
Well, shouldn't we be
For
doing that?
for one thing, the
Yes-ish.
state law requires you to save.
Yes-ish. So pretty much
Some
everything
amount.
that comes, I know in our office, everything that comes, I save as a PDF. I have folders on the computer, so God forbid, you know, this place, hurricane hits.
Right.
We have it. Like you're saying, there certainly could be a better method for the way we're keeping things, I think. But I think most people are keeping, you know, now that we're moving forward, PDFs. Like she said, unfortunately, some of the things you still need hard copies of, but not
Right.
everything.
Right, but I guess my question is, once
Certainly
with,
people should be at this point.
because then we're never gonna,
Right.
Right.
right?
Oh, yeah. Well, and you got to find something that you can easily feed back into also, because that's the problem.
Right.
I mean, it's good to go forward with it, and that usually makes a lot of sense, it's pretty easy. But then you got to figure, how do you fold your old files into it?
So as part of the digitization
Right.
project, we need software that is searchable to
Correct.
scan current things into as well, so that those can be.
Right, and the
Yeah.
sooner, right, obviously, the sooner the better.
I think, yeah, it's
So
not.
we don't get
it's-
further and further behind.
It's finding a company, 'cause it's not going to be
Kind of.
software. They'll it's the
Right.
process. The software is the easiest part.
Right.
There's a lot of software that can do it, but finding
Right.
the right company that'll hold your hand through it.
Right,
And as an expert in going through, 100 years of boxes,
yeah, that's a Jim Donovan,
yeah.
Okay,
I'm thinking.
yeah.
Yep,
Yeah.
certainly they'd be
You
part
can
of
find the
that
right,
project.
there are good companies that do it.
Okay,
And a lot of things that we have, well, I shouldn't say a lot. We have a significant amount of things that are confidential, you know, payroll records, that type of thing that we certainly, Carol can tell you, they have an entire room that's just full of box after box
Right.
after box of that, but that's, again, confidential. We would have to have only certain people have access to it, so we definitely need help with,
Yeah.
Okay.
That
right.
can all be structured, though.
Yeah.
certainly. That would be great. We've been asking for this for a while.
I just want to make a comment. It's not a panacea on the digitizing, and in order for us to destroy any records, we have to get approval from the Department of Revenue.
Correct.
So a lot of the records we cannot destroy.
Right.
Right.
So we're always going to have some.
We'll never,
Absolutely.
yeah, we'll never completely.
Right.
get
No,
rid
I
of
know,
paper.
but
Right.
let's just get to that point,
Right.
right? That'd be,
And also a caution that there's a cost to digitizing storage, right?
Correct.
Yep.
That's why we're
So
looking
the
for grant.
storage,
There is.
and then
Earmark.
once you digitize and you get rid of all your other paper.
Yep.
Now you have no form of reference. When your systems go down, nobody works.
right. Yeah, you can
So-
go home, Carol.
Right, I know, that would be great.
Jim can't.
The state is getting better.
Been in that
So
world
anyway,
before.
and I agree, we should have, like, some of the, that's one of the items that we got when we got the grant for the school and town
Yep.
comprehensive plan, is that we are going to be able to scan in all the invoices. So when you want to look at something in the system, you click and it's a hotkey. You
Correct.
click on it and up comes
Yep.
your invoice. But again, it has to all be managed, and it's a software that's managed
I
through
know.
Munis.
Yeah, and if we can't get an earmark that covers the whole cost, I don't want to get 20% of the cost from the state, and that's
Yeah,
our
I think we're
earmark.
looking at about 100 grand.
Yeah.
to get the whole
Right.
thing
Oh, I think it's
said
more
and
than
done.
that.
It's a
It's
pretty
more.
intensive project.
It is a very
to do.
intensive
I know.
Because you also got the staff time,
Yeah.
so.
Exactly.
You'd have
Yeah.
to pick which projects are most important to do this with first.
Yeah.
You
Yep.
have to choose which
Agreed.
offices.
You got to pick the ones you can afford to lose, because all the mistakes are
Exactly.
going to be made the first,
Early
The
on.
right?
pipe cleaner, you know how that works,
Yep,
right?
yep.
Yeah.
It's true.
We'll start with the building department.
And Carol's right, the state is still behind, there's still a ton of things that they refuse to
permits that
let
were
go
issued
of
for my
as far
house.
as paper, but they're starting to get there a little bit, but, there's a reason why we have all the paper, it's not for fun.
I know. We'll get there.
Anywho, it's a good first step.
So are we good with the,
I think so.
Okay.
I think I've
okay,
got the direction I need, thank you.
all right. Okay, so next we have ratifying contracts for the fire chief and the professional firefighters of Millis Local 4704.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In your packet is the signed 3-year agreement between the Town of Millis and the Professional Firefighters of Massachusetts, Local 4704. Happy to report that this agreement was successfully reached after a very productive series of negotiations, and that the final document, we believe, is beneficial and fair to both the members of the PFFM and to the town. I would like to thank Selectwoman Ellen Rosenfeld for all her work on her first municipal collective bargaining agreement negotiations. I think they went very well. I'd like to also thank the fire chief, Rick Barrett, for his work involved with this, which helped a great deal in bringing this to a successful conclusion. And I would like also to thank the membership of the PFFM who negotiated with the town in good faith on a collaborative negotiation process. So I think that process went very smoothly, and I think the parties were very satisfied with the end result. So with that, Madam Chair, I'd ask if the board would take a formal vote of ratification of the collective bargaining agreement with the PFFM Local 4704.
I'll make a motion to ratify the union agreement with the PFFM Local 4704.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to ratify the contract with the PFFM Local 4704. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Great, thank you very much. And also in your packet is a 3-year signed agreement between the Town of Millis and the Fire Chief, Rick Barrett. I'm sure you all agree, the Fire Chief is really a gem for the community. He's done exceedingly well in that position, and I look forward to continuing work with him. And I want to thank the chair for her assistance in that process of negotiating the agreement with the chief, and I'm requesting that the board formally vote to ratify the employment agreement with Chief Rick Barrett.
I'll make a motion to ratify the employment agreement with Chief Barrett.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to ratify the employment agreement with Chief Barrett, our fire chief. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, next we have board and committee liaison updates. Anybody have anything?
I do.
Good.
I went to the Charles River, my favorite place. And seriously, it's getting to be my favorite
Exciting
place.
to go to the sewer plant.
That's okay.
I go to the
cemetery
sewer
is my
plant
favorite, so.
once a month, people, so you're welcome. No, it was great. So they sent out January 31, I know you can't see this, but I'm going to tell you. So actual, this is Millis, actual capacity right now.
67?
Nope, read it again.
62.
62%.
You're just a little bit too far away.
I know. So the actual capacity right now, as we've been in a moratorium, so didn't change since January 31, we are at 62% capacity. So that's good. And they're talking about putting a small board together with Millis, Medway, and Bellingham to talk about our, I don't know, collaboration, whatever. And I volunteered to represent Millis if they do put it together. And they're going to reach out to the other two towns and see where we are. But it was good. It was a very good meeting.
Excellent.
Yep.
Thank you. You got anything?
Yeah, I went to the capital planning meeting, and we discussed many of the items on this sheet that was handed out today.
Yes.
We also talked about reformatting slightly so that we could show the ongoing maintenance and repair costs separate from the override-driven costs, separate from the enterprise costs, so that we could know how much it costs each year, basically, to maintain
Yes.
town services, replace assets as they start to age out. And then a slight tweak to the I guess it's a bylaw, it's not a charter change, a slight tweak to the bylaw that actually reflects what we're doing. So that will probably come on in November on the town meeting, not this go-round. But, it talked about us reviewing every purchase over $10,000. And
right.
we're going to take the things out that are already in the budget, so there's no need to look at police cars and school bus leases. Move the 10,000 up to 25,000 because 10,000 is pretty low in the current market. Very few things fell into that anyway, but it'll just free up the time. And then eliminate studies. So there are a bunch of little changes to it, but it was it'll be a change proposed for November. We're still drafting.
Okay. I don't have anything.
Excellent.
I will next time. I don't have anything this time.
Yeah, Michelle, this was not in your packet, but the water sewer commitment.
I was going to say, I didn't see that anywhere, and I was
Forgot to print it. I
excited.
just suddenly realized it was not in there, so there you go.
Okay.
I know you were waiting for it. Very excited.
All right, so that brings us to the next item, approval of water sewer commitment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You've just received the quarterly bill run commitment for the third quarter for water, sewer. So the water is $270,444.18. Capital assessment is $214,223.71. The sewer, $337,031.42. And the on-off fees, $283.01, for a total quarterly bill run of $821,982.32. So I'd request that the board authorize this water sewer department commitment.
I'll make a motion to authorize the Q3, is it? the promise?
Yes.
Yeah, Q3 water sewer commitment for $821,982.32.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to authorize the
Q3.
Q3 water sewer commitment to the collector in the amount of $821,982.32. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Great, thank you.
Okay, and last, we have approval of draft minutes. Any questions? Comments?
No.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of April 4th, February 6th, and February 13th.
Second?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the draft minutes from April 4th, 2022, February 6th, 2023, and February 13th, 2023. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously.
Boy, we've really caught up.
We did.
Totally caught up. I'm gonna
Getting close.
I know.
Close,
Looking good.
practically
We're there.
today.
Yeah.
So at this time, I'm going to make a motion to enter executive session to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with union personnel, SEIU, and to consider the purchase or lease of real property and if such discussion may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the governmental body. We will emerge from executive session just for the purpose of adjourning. I will poll the board to go into executive session.
Oh, did somebody second?
Second.
Thanks. Ms. Rosenfeld.
Aye.
Mr. Schultz.
Aye.
And I'm an aye, so we are now in executive session. Thank you, everybody, and thank you, Millis
Thank
Community
you.
Media. Have a good night.
Well done.
So I just checked with my person.